got my first Les Paul out here today. It is a real Gibson Les Paul. This is a 2005 Les Paul Deluxe. I actually bought this in early 2006, right at the beginning of the year. And at that time, the only place you could buy a Les Paul Deluxe that wasn't used from the 70s would have been Musician's Friend. They had done a special run of them through Gibson, which you know, the manufacturer will do if you order enough of them. So at that time, these came in transparent black, wine red, and gold top. I opted for the gold top. This nice classic kind of a color. The other thing to note at the time was a Les Paul Standard was running about $2,300–$2,400. I picked this one up for about $1,700 shipped. So it was at that time a way to get a pretty affordable, relatively speaking, Les Paul. American made, lacquer finished, bound neck, bound body, yada yada yada. It's a pretty neat guitar. Obviously by that point I was starting to become a huge fan of Gibson guitars in general. I was decently impressed enough with them that I thought I would give another one a try. This was actually my third one. My second one I don't own anymore, which was a Faded Flying V. I had that for a number of years, but I ended up trading it in for a later guitar. This one has a wonderful, wonderful sound to it by way of these mini humbucker pickups. So, standard stuff, we'll just go over the guitar real quick. 6-string, 24 3/4 inch scale neck, rosewood fretboard with acrylic inlays, as Les Pauls are built. This is built without the chambered body that would become popular the following year, so as a result it is a very heavy guitar. I have to have this nice big padded strap to kind of save my shoulder from this thing, as you know, I'm not getting any younger. Classic look with the pickguard. Later on I added this Bigsby tremolo system, but originally this came with a stop tail to go with the two-pneumatic bridge on there. Controls are a standard Les Paul. You've got a 3-way pickup selector up here for either pickup or both in the middle position. And you've got volume, tone knobs. So standard Les Paul configuration. I added Schaller strap locks, as I do to all my guitars, because honestly these things are extremely heavy duty. Big chunk of metal that the strap pin just sits in, holding the guitar into the strap, and it locks with a nice reassuring metallic kind of a click. So you're pretty sure it's not going anywhere. Probably tear the entire strap pin out of the guitar before this strap lock fails. So I would highly recommend it if you've got a guitar that you like, to avoid accidentally dropping it. You do need to, once in a while, if you don't Loctite them, check the nuts on these to make sure they haven't backed out just from the stress of being pulled around and worn. A couple of things. The mini humbucker pickups on here were originally done in the late 60s when they started Les Paul production back up, because they had all these extra pickups that they didn't know what to do with, that had been used on some of the Epiphone models that were being built in the plant at the same time. So they put some of these on the Les Pauls, and that's how they were originally reissued in 1968, is with mini humbucker pickups. Mini humbuckers are not as fat sounding as your standard humbucker pickups, but they kind of fall halfway in between a single coil and a humbucker in terms of their tone. They can get a really, really bright sound that kind of reminds you a little bit of a Stratocaster, although not quite there. And if you roll the tone knobs off and kind of roll the highs off on that, you can really get them into the same kind of tonal territory that a standard Les Paul will sound like. So it's actually a very versatile guitar, even though it looks like you know, just a plain old Les Paul. Keen observers may note that the pickups are a little bit smaller than what they're used to seeing, and it may look a little bit odd to them, but they're actually very, very versatile. and it was being sold at a price point that I thought was very favorable, so I jumped right on that. And within a couple of years of that, I want to say, they started kind of building some limited Les Paul Deluxe production for more of their general market through some limited editions and things like that. But the later models were built with chambered bodies. Many humbucker pickups over the years have kind of had a spotty reputation as being microphonic and developing, you know, as they age, some undesirable, I'll call it collateral noise kind of characteristics, where they'll start picking up sounds that you don't want them to, just from, you know, knocking the body of the guitar around. That gets made worse, I think, by having a chambered body. No scientific evidence on that, but nonetheless, you know, the later models that they made, I haven't really played a lot of those myself, but I am very happy with the solid kind of classic Les Paul tone that this guitar has, and I was very impressed with it when I got it. It's got a thick, chunky, what the Gibson USA factory would consider a quote-unquote 50s neck, which means it's something substantial for your hand to hold on to. People who like to shred on like 80s metal will tend to prefer thinner necks, but to me this gives you something substantial to rest your hand on, so you don't get cramped and fatigued, and honestly it allows you to keep the action decently low and you're not losing sustain through the neck. So it's a pretty good design. As I said, later on I added on this Bigsby, which is a standard Bigsby B7, which would go on a Les Paul type of a guitar, and it is sitting on what they call a Vibramate, which screws in to the existing studs that are in the body for the stop tailpiece. So what that means is, if I decide, you know what, I didn't really like this after all, down the line, later on, I can totally reverse this modification, put the original stop tail back on, and there's no extra holes in the guitar from me having screwed the Bigsby directly to the guitar. It doesn't sit quite as low as it would if I had, you know, screwed it directly into the guitar, but this works well enough, and without doing any kind of permanent damage or modifications to the guitar in case I change my mind and, you know, heaven forbid down the road decided I wanted to sell this, which I really don't see happening. But it also allows me, if I want to switch this to maybe another Les Paul guitar if I wanted to try it out on that. So it's an interesting thing. The whole setup here for the Bigsby is ran me out in the order of about little over $200 for the tremolo and the mounting plates, but I think it was kind of worth it for a, you know, guitar in this price range to do that with. It would be kind of not as worth it if I were to go out and buy, like, say, a $300 or $400 or $500 Epiphone Les Paul. Then, you know, the cost of that Bigsby at that point is a significant portion of the cost of that guitar, so it makes a little bit less sense to do that. But what it is, it just allows you to kind of drop or raise the pitch of the note slightly. It's a whammy bar like you've probably heard of. It won't do a dive bomb like a modern Floyd Rose will, but what I have found is, unlike a Floyd Rose, if I have a string go slightly out of tune, it doesn't throw everything else out of whack, because the stiffness of the spring in the Bigsby unit down here is providing enough pushback to kind of return it to pitch, even without the other, you know, even overcoming the other strings. So in effect, what I'm able to do with one of these setups is, although I can't do the sort of wild kind of shenanigans that modern shredders do with a Floyd Rose system, it allows me to actually very quickly tune this guitar to drop D without screwing up the tuning of the rest of the guitars, and still able to use this Bigsby. So all in all, it's a useful thing, but the kind of range of it is... See, so you don't get it completely slack, but it does give you a noticeable pitch drop. And because it doesn't drop pitch as far, moving the handle, you have to move the handle farther to get even that kind of a pitch drop out of it. I feel like you have a bit more control as well, because it's less, I'll call it, sensitive. Whereas if you bump the handle on a Floyd, you're going to notice a sharp drop in pitch pretty quickly. That is, I'll admit, not difficult to control with practice, but you know, it's just one of those personal preference kind of things. I haven't had too many offers on this guitar lately, mainly because people haven't really seen me with it a lot. I've got a number of other guitars that I play that are a little bit lighter in weight, a little bit more forgiving on my back, but this does remain one of my favorites because of the versatility of these mini humbucker pickups. And you really can't go wrong with a classic gold top color. You can see how it kind of, you know, it's just a solid color, but it changes pretty noticeably in the light as I kind of move back and forth. And really, that's why this color was selected as one of the original colors back in the 1950s, is because of its reactiveness to light. The paint actually on a classic gold top finish, you'll see some of the older ones kind of develop this green patina. That's because they get the gold color from copper powder that is kind of mixed in with the lacquer to give it this kind of brilliant kind of a metallic shine to it. So all in all, even though these pickups are really from the late 60s, early 70s kind of a school of design, this is, in many other respects, a guitar that is much more, I'll say, reminiscent of 1950s styling, although it is not an actual reissue or anything like that. It's just the feel and the vibe of the guitar really reminds me more of 1950s type of stuff. But you know, despite that, these designs are timeless, and you can play all sorts of other kinds of music on them.